Safety Manual Review. Safety Manual Review. Part 8 Chemicals and Gases. C. Laboratory. Purpose. Laboratory operations are highly technical, and it is not possible to provide all safety precautions in this document. For information on the hazards of specific laboratory chemicals, employees should refer to standard operations procedures within each project. Laboratory standards. A. Personal practices. 1. Food and drinks are prohibited in the laboratory work area. 2. Footwear worn in the testing areas of the laboratory will cover the toes, sides and heels of the feet. 3. Uniforms or lab coats will be worn at all times in the testing areas. 4. Protective eyewear must be worn at all times in the testing areas. 5. Employees will be familiar with the location and use of safety showers, eye wash stations, fire blankets, fire extinguishers, spill kits and AEDs. 6. First aid kits will be well stocked and be available in accessible areas. 7. Appropriate protective gloves will be worn when in testing areas. 8. Care will be taken when handling contaminated glassware. 9. Protective gloves will be worn when handling hot objects. 10. Broken glass and spilled reagents will be cleaned up immediately. A designated container will be used for disposal of all broken glass, and wet floors will be marked with a warning sign. 11. All chemicals and compounds will be considered toxic unless absolutely known to be otherwise. 12. Accidents will be reported to supervisors immediately. 13. Do not store food in laboratory refrigerators. 14. Due to the presence of hazardous chemicals, working alone in the laboratory is strongly discouraged and requires the approval of the laboratory supervisor. 15. All employees will be aware of the location and use of spill cleanup kits. B. Procedures and equipment. 1. The laboratory floor will be kept clean and free from clutter at all times. Bench space is to be kept organized and clean. 2. Empty and rinse all glassware before setting aside for cleaning. 3. The laboratory will be cleaned up at the end of each day. 4. Do not store chemicals under fume hoods or work with acids, bases or solvents together. 5. Always add acid to water when making dilutions and use constant stirring. Do not pour water into strong acids. 6. Use suction bulbs when pipetting. Never fill pipettes by mouth. 7. Use gloves when making glass to rubber connections. 8. Sealed ampules will be opened by wrapping a paper towel around the ampule before snapping the top or using ampule snapper. 9. The use of new equipment will be thoroughly explained to laboratory personnel. 10. Use proper sanitary techniques and disposal methods when working with bacteriological samples or cultures. 11. Use an effective bactericide to clean bench surfaces after performing bacterial work. 12. Use care in disposing of all samples to avoid possible contamination. Autoclave all bacterial cultures before disposal. 13. At the end of the workday, always check to see that all equipment, gas cylinders, burners, non-essential equipment, vacuums, site hoods and water faucets are turned off before leaving. 14. All employees will be familiar with the operation of the autoclaves. Never open autoclave doors without first releasing all pressure. Door gaskets and stem valves will be checked regularly. Allow steam to escape before removing equipment from autoclave. 15. Notify the supervisor of all hazardous spills. 16. Always assume hot plates are hot, regardless of whether or not they are turned on. 17. Use caution when operating the centrifuge. Do not open cover with the rotor spinning. 18. Use exhaust fans continuously when working with any chemical or sample that may release hazardous fumes. Use protective glasses at all times and handle heated containers with protective gloves. C. Laboratory chemicals. 1. Acids, solvents and caustics will be stored in their approved cabinets at all times when not in use. Cabinet trays will be used for these chemicals. 2. Strong oxidizing chemicals will be kept stored separately from all organic or easily oxidizable materials. These oxidizers include acids, nitrates, permanganates, peroxides, chromates and chlorates. 3. Supplies of all chemicals which are to be stored in the lab will be kept to a minimum. Surplus and outdated chemicals will be disposed of according to procedures found in the Laboratory Chemical Hygiene Manual. 4. Do not pour oils, solvents, solutions containing mercury or other hazardous chemicals down laboratory drains. Hazardous chemicals for disposal are to be stored in a designated location, away from chemicals still in use. 5. Laboratory prepared reagents and solutions will be labeled with their identity, safety warnings and date of preparation. 6. Compressed gas cylinders will be chained in place at all times to prevent them from falling. Cylinder caps will remain on all cylinders not in use. 7. When opening cylinders or regulator valves, stand to the side of the valve and open the valve slowly to prevent pressure surges. Inspect regulators for signs of corrosion on a regular basis. 8. Do not attempt to identify chemicals or unknown samples by smell. 9. Chemicals and reagents will not be stored in direct natural light. 10. Do not remove labels from any container containing any chemical or solution. This concludes our review of Part 8, Chemicals and Gases. Safety Manual Review. Part